No more swearing, right? So, we ready? Hi, Krzysztof. Should I let me know when I should start speaking then, Tucker?
We're going. Let's do it, Joseph.
Okay. So, hello everyone.
Let me give an intro here. Hey guys, we're doing something different today. Wait. We'll cut all of this. We're doing something different today. Joseph Kubowski, my friend here, is going to be running the live stream today, and I'm going to turn it over to him. Just pretend this intro right here never happened, and I'll turn it over to my colleague Joseph Kubowski. Joseph, take it away.
Hello everyone. My name is Joseph Kubowski. I'm the CEO at Nimdzi Insight, and I'm substituting Sarah Hickey, who's luckily on vacation this and probably even next week and enjoying her family life. Hi, Sarah. We look forward to hearing your session next week or in 2 weeks' time from now. Anyway, I would like to introduce you our guest, Krzysztof Zdanowski. Hi, Krzysztof.
Hello, Joseph. How are you?
Great, thanks. Thanks for coming. I've heard that your company has an interesting anniversary, so I couldn't hold back, and I decided let's pull you into a call and a live stream immediately.
Yes, we do celebrate 10 years this year, and it's probably for the first time that I'm speaking about this. And just by coincidence, as you know, this is not prepared. We've virtually connected on LinkedIn like an hour back or 2 hours back, where you said, let's do this live now. Okay. I am, yeah. We have a 10-year anniversary this year. I'm actually putting a number of posts and podcasts and eventually publishing a book later this year. It's almost ready, over 200 pages
Beautiful.
about this. So it's become my little small secret project this year to document the 10 years and see, yeah, see what where it takes us.
Beautiful. So let's come back to the book in a minute. Krzysztof, you're the CEO and founder at Summa Lingua Technologies, Data, AI, and Languages. Tell us about the company. Tell us about your strategy. What you're still give us some secrets.
Okay, so I'll be a little sentimental as by the 10-year intro. So yeah, I started in 2011 as a small LSP here in Krakow, Poland, and then we kind of evolved into like probably not unusual to some other LSPs. We grew bigger and bigger, and then we started experimenting with more technology. We looked at some of the TMS technologies, connectors, and we just became a little more of an automated LSP. And then at some point, with the pace at which machine translation was developing, obviously most of our workflows or translation workflows moved to machine translation, and with NMT, different from statistical and rule-based before. We looked at translations not as a translation anymore, but as a data task, because a lot that has to do with building machine translation engines or NMT engines and working with them has to do with cleaning data and working with data sets rather than just throwing words around the wall from language A to language B, and with the quality being better and better, we the translator themselves was becoming less relevant in a sense, and other tasks like the NLP tasks became more and more important. So we have somehow pivoted the strategy of the company in 2016, 2017 to work more with multilingual data rather than just translations. And obviously, content or text, NLP is one of them. But when you think of data, you immediately think of voice and image and video and other types of data. And this has opened us to a completely different world of recording data sets in recording voice and collecting images and working with companies on building their AI products in
Whoa, 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 whoa. This is a lot. So I just no, I don't want to stop you there. It's definitely exciting. Um, I am just hearing so many interesting topics. Let's get back to them one by one later on, because I wanted to start with you being very interesting entrepreneur. I saw you being involved in many different projects, exciting projects. Um, I would also like some of the people who are considering of starting a translation company, or maybe investing in going into a certain direction, being stuck in a certain position for quite some time. What should they do? So help me out later on, going back to each of these individual steps that you are describing. Very interesting, very exciting. So you're talking about audio, you're talking about pictures. What else? What other, whatever spicy projects do you have there?
Well, there's a lot of interesting ones, because if you think about the ultimate of what we do and let's say the goal or the vision, right? It's when you're translating, a lot of LSPs, if you open up their website, they help their clients communicate, right? And we've also been there, but now most of our business is and actually in a little bit of a different or has a different mission, because it's not only helping companies communicate, but it's also working with them to maybe make their AI products more inclusive. When you think of an Alexa or a Bixby or a Siri, if you teach or help Alexa speak a different language, it's not only about communication, it's mainly about having Alexa reach more people out there. Well, there's multiple other applications. Think of the gaming industry booming now. With the NLP technology or NLP work that we do, we help these gaming companies maybe spot content that is profanity or has, there's, let's imagine a case where, two or people play an online game. There's a lot of chatting going on between the players, and some of it might be harmful, some of it might be bullying, cyberbullying, some of it might be even life threatening, where people think of committing suicide or whatnot, right?
Mm.
These are, that kind of environment. And so we help gaming companies and technology companies work on products that can identify that type of data and then immediately red flag it so that someone can save someone's life, essentially. So these are the kind of exciting projects that we now work on,
Amazing.
and most of our revenue, from 2011 being 100% in translations to move forward or skip forward to 2021, where 70 or so percent of our revenue is with these kind of projects.
Amazing. Look, Christoph, I consult translation companies, and how do you get to start talking to a client about an exciting project? How do you do it? When someone is buying translation services or even localization services, they would compare apple to apple, right? We're kind of talking apple to pear here. How do you stand out? How do you make them listen to you at the beginning?
So when you're a translation company, I think you have a very demanding and difficult task because the industry is quite mature and it's difficult to differentiate. Essentially, like I've been always asking myself this question as an LSP, how am I different from the hundreds and thousands of other LSPs? And honestly, obviously, talking to customers is a different thing, but I didn't have an answer that was satisfactory to myself. Forget convincing a client. So and hence that pivot to different worlds like that AI or data world, because there is not so many players, and we have this unique language expertise. And with that language expertise, moving the revenue needle to these kind of exciting tasks makes us really different. So where we differ, probably there's a lot of data collection platforms like the Amazon's Mechanical Turk or the Click Workers and so on. Where we differ is we probably look at maybe less of a mass crowdsourcing data tasks, and we focus on tasks that require more of a human in the loop kind of intervention, that we make the data sets more accurate, and hence the quality of the output is maybe a little better. But there is no comparison between these two worlds. In a sense, there's many similarities, but there's different buyers, or maybe a same company but a different buying unit selling data. You interact with data scientists
Mm-hmm.
and not the localization department. So
Okay.
and interesting, before you jump, Joseph, it's actually, it's new to us and it's new to them. These product, we're like in the very early, you know, era of these AI developments or AI products. So it's so exciting because we get to make them. If you think about that AI era, we're still in a very, early days. So it's like working on first computers, or earlier years
Beautiful.
back. So very exciting.
Beautiful. Um, Sounds very, very positive. What about the challenges? I can imagine that, when you come and you start talking about this type of product, the first I can think of is confidentiality. Anything, that's slowing you down, and how do you overcome those conversations, those challenges? What are the typical no's when you start speaking to someone?
Yeah, well, one big challenge is that on many occasions when we work with these projects, data projects, like the client doesn't really know what they need, and we don't really know what we're doing. Put it this way, it's all new to us, and it's new to the customer. So very frequently we start working on a data set, and then with a pilot, we would always go with a pilot, and then early on it becomes it becomes clear that we have, or this is not working, or we should pivot into a different direction where we might need a different type of data or more of this and less of that, and it's a back and forth. So it's like developing in an agile sprint way, in a sense, because when you think of translations, it's usually like, okay, language A to language B, how much QA, how much project management, how much translation effort. With these kind of work projects that you just don't know. Most of them, obviously, there's some that are pretty well defined and so on. But so I would say that's a big challenge, because the cost is unknown, the time is unknown. There's many unknowns, and best is to be in touch with the data, with the scientists on on client side, to work as their extension, and then they understand that very well too, and it's a winning combination. But there's many other challenges, right? Financial challenges. A lot of these projects might be working capital heavy, where you start collecting. With the crowd, you need to kind of pay them immediately. A person would submit a few recordings, you kind of need to PayPal the $20 to them immediately, and the client will only pay you at the end or once a month. Or so working capital is a requirement. A lot of technology, engineering, and development work needs to go into making collecting data from, let's say, 10,000 people or 1,000 people at the same time, and having these crowd workers work on a platform, and a lot of fraud is also happening. So we try to, with the NLP platform, we try to also detect fraud, different patterns where someone is, let's say, annotating a piece of content, and then all of a sudden the speed at which they annotate becomes 5% faster, or 5%, or sorry, 5 times faster, or 5 times slower, or there is irregularities on the behavior patterns of how the crowd works. We try to red flag it and make sure we have a human intervention there. So these challenges that are not very common in the translation world, if you will. This is what we're struggling with.
Amazing. I had tons of questions when you were speaking, so I had to write them down, not to forget some. Although I still forget the last one that I was going to ask. When you are with the client, when you are expanding the business, you said there's multiple stakeholders that you need to kind of build a relationship with. This is definitely giving me a signal that what you're doing is more having of the technical conversations than the linguistic conversations. What is the proportion of the expertise in your team? Do you work with solution architects? Do you have an engineering team and the linguist team? When you kind of present, and I'm still at the phase of kind of getting to being introduced to the client. What's the, how does your team look like when you're entering the conversation?
Yeah, well, so depends on how much of a relationship we have with a given customer. If it's an RFP, then would usually talk with procurement, right? And then it's a sales job, in a sense, to put together an RFP and submit it. But essentially, what we want to do is get down to the scientists, data scientists, and linguistic capability is very important. So let's not underestimate linguistic capabilities, and this is why LSPs are actually in this game, and they're a natural player in this world. But there's much more. So put it on a 50-50 balance between engineering, DevOps, developers, solution architects, but there's also linguists that are very important, right? So I would weight it as a 50-50 balance, but certainly something that, in an LSP is probably 95 to 5% or 90 to 10 maybe. This one would be at 50-50, and you would need to build that capacity and capability that is also expensive. And yeah.
That was going to be my next question, right? You have to balance it not only from the professional perspective, but also from the financial perspective. Let's be open here. The linguists are probably less expensive than the engineering. teams.
Yeah.
But
And then you compete with, as an LSP, you might compete over project managers or, yeah, some localization engineers and so on. But the competition is, let's say, within the industry. Well, some buyers have internal in-house departments and so on. But here you're competing for developers and engineers with, your clients as well, the Googles and Apples of the world. And that becomes a challenge to financially support that and make them excited, because you're not going to pay more. It's difficult to pay more. So you need to get them excited about that work and win over that talent.
great. Krzysztof, this may sounds great to me. I had some part of my life in technology, so I can somehow imagine what is this bringing and what value is this bringing to the client. But give me a success story. Tell me, just like we have one, IBM saved $5 million thanks to Nimdzi. What is the success story for Suma Lingua here? What is if you're going to open up a conversation, your elevator pitch for this project? How would that go?
Yeah, so first, congrats on IBM letting you bring them up as a case study. I have a very hard time convincing my clients to make them reveal their names in our case studies. But certainly, there's been, and I take pride in these case studies because, um, let's say, well, again, I can't mention the names.
Understood.
We're just not allowed. But one of the very popular home assistant that we all have in our
We're not
homes.
going to mention Alexa.
Yeah, you please don't.
We're not. Of course.
Understands many of the languages, or is more inclusive because we work on these data sets with those teams. So when it's actually so cool to be able to use the end products. There's also this, the very well-known Korean company that probably some of you have. Well, I know on the West Coast it's more like Apple, but some of us use a different brand, and they also have a voice assistant or a speech module that you can talk to and ask about different things. And we work on these data sets and recordings to make that component speak and understand more languages. So it's just so cool to actually be able to use these products. I'm a proud Samsung user myself, and it's just so cool. So yeah, I think these are obviously collaborative efforts. I don't take the glory for the whole product, obviously, and there's other vendors that work on these projects as well. So in parallel, so we're not the only provider, but to get a seat at that table is just so cool, and very difficult to get one when you're an LSP, especially mid or small size. But then, moving into that exciting blue ocean of multilingual data, we do get a seat at these tables and work on these projects. So, yeah.
Amazing. Krzysztof, thanks a lot for this. I will go back to where you started with talking about the translators, and first you said that the role of the translator in the process is not so important anymore. Then you said that the linguists are playing critical role in the project themselves. As Nimdzi has a lot of followers also on the linguist side or the translator side, freelancer side even. How should they look at these types of projects? How should they behave so that they have a good and important role in those as well?
Yeah, so look, it's an interesting, very interesting conversation, and I would love to hear your opinion about this. But in my world, where I have um, uh, been, involved in the industry, um, the translator has always been, and let's talk about localization first. The translator has always been at the center of the game, right? The translator was, translating, and somebody else was reviewing or editing, but that person was also a translator, in a sense. And I think with NMT being so good, the fluency of the output is so good that it's actually enough on many occasions. Obviously, it's not always the case. There's exceptions to the rule, but the fluency of the output is so good that it's enough to have a monolingual subject matter expert
Mm-hmm.
looked at the output. And you
Mm-hmm.
don't really need a translator in its original definition of the word, but you rather have someone like, for example, you're translating, let's say, an IPO set of or IPO memorandum, right? Or a drug discovery document or whatever that might be. Let's hire maybe a corporate finance guy or maybe a doctor to look at the monolingual text and have that person edit it, enhance it. And this is something that I'm excited about and something that we're experimenting with. So subject matter experts, and then you stop paying them by words, right? I don't know a doctor or a corporate guy or a finance guy who would work by words, be paid by words. They all get paid by hours. So you start, it's a different business model. So you start paying them by hours, and then try to measure how many hours they spent on these texts. So that's how I think of it. But linguists do have a role, but the role is different in this case. For example, when you build these machine translation engines, there's a lot of obviously monolingual, a bilingual data that needs to go into these engines for them to perform better and better. You need to clean these data sets. You need to annotate them properly. And this is where linguists are important. But they don't translate anymore. They work on these data sets to try to make them better. Work with the client, maybe look for bias, for all sort of differences or all sorts of different problems that one might find in a data set, and to make it better, to enhance it. So linguists do have a role, but they have a different role to play in this world.
But Christoph, are the experts interested in this type of role? You're talking about doctors, engineering, is this
In
exciting for them?
our in our early pilots, they are. But it's not an easy task. We need to recruit them. We need to get the crowd engaged. We look at different models where we have, like, let's say, brand ambassadors or domain ambassadors, where we get to work with, let's say, a famous doctor, or let's say, look at the sports domain. We hire a very known name in the an athlete that is recognized, and let's say, or even hire a brand. Let's take not that, Lego, for example, not our client. I know nothing about the account, but let's take Lego. Lego themselves have a lot of fans, right? Brand fans that love Lego blocks. I'm one of them myself. I put Lego blocks with my son, and I'm sure you too, and so on. So that brand has a lot of fans, right? Natural followers. So if they help us work with them on building that crowd of experts, essentially experts who know a lot about Lego, and imagine streamlining their content through NMT, and then having that crowd work on enhancing its quality. Who's better to judge quality if not the target audience and experts? So it's a challenge. It's a different challenge than recruiting translators on ProZ and Translators Cafe and so on. But we need to,
So
yeah, we recruit
what do you
them
do to
and
make it easier for them? I
Jo-
remember one provider, building an
Joseph and
application.
Christoph, gentlemen, if you don't mind, I do have a meeting starting in 2 minutes. So, last question here. I'm sorry, guys. For those of you listening at home, we jumped in here at the last minute. Here at NIMSY Live, we do these pop ups. Christoph, I'd love to have you back to finish the conversation, but your operator's got to go in 2 minutes. So, last question, guys.
absolutely.
Excellent. How did it start with Suma Lingua? Acquisition, how do you go about it?
No, so long story short, Tucker has 1 minute to go, so I'll put it
I was
this
going to
way.
say that's a hell of a question for a last minute, 1 minute to go kind of thing. Thanks, Joseph.
You will all read about it in my book, but I come from a bilingual family. I spoke English and Polish. I was, earning food and paying my bills in Krakow early students' days. I was interpreting, and then I got fired from the job. because of whatever reasons, and not so much um, internal, but rather external. The client that I was working with had a lot of financial problems. I was fired, and then I had just to pay my bills. I thought, okay, why not start an interpreting business? And then I got more and more work, and the rest is history. Probably story is not unique. Many businesses in our industry started by an individual translator just getting more and more work and streamlining it to their friends.
Amazing. Christoph, we will not finish here. We will speak again. You've accepted an invitation to the CEO hot seat. I invite everyone to join us there. Thank you. Thanks for joining, Christoph, and have a nice day.
Joseph, thanks, Tucker. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys as well. It's good to have y'all. All right, let's see if I can find the button to take us out here. Outro. Bye.
Bye.